Hey there, Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. And if you are new here, my name is Hannah. I am a Western Practical Astrologer. Okay, so today we are going to be talking all about 2025 for all of you Scorpios out there. Yes, I hope you enjoy your horoscopes, your horoscope for 2025. I do just want to say here one quick thing. Not feeling the best, right? So do excuse me, my throat isn't 100%. So if my communication is a bit off, that is why. But we're going to make it, we're going to do this. Okay, so if you do enjoy the information presented today, please make sure to give the video a like. And if you would like to book a reading with me, you can visit my website, hannahselsewhere.com. There you can also find the astrology products I offer. Alrighty. So first thing I want to mention here is if Scorpio is on the rising in your chart, this video is very much for you, right? You're going to resonate perhaps the most with the information presented today. However, I also recommend watching even if the sun is in Scorpio or the moon is in Scorpio in your chart when it comes to this, okay? Especially if the sun is in Scorpio and you have a day chart, or if the moon is in Scorpio and you have a night chart. So make sure to look into that. And also just a quick reminder, when we do look at horoscopes through the lens of the sun, we want to think about how we are essentially exploring our soul's purpose. And when we look to our horoscopes through the lens of the moon, it's more about our emotions, okay? The moon is more unconscious and the sun is more conscious. So with that cleared up, Happy New Year, everyone. Naturally, it is not the beginning of the astrological new year, but it's still ushering in 2025. So yes, Happy New Year. Though just on that note, for you, Scorpio, whenever we do enter the new year, we have the sun here in your third, activating your third house of communication, intellect, siblings, and education. So we could see more of this recognition with respect to these areas. We could see greater responsibility and discipline, and perhaps you really pushing and striving for success. There's this building structured influence with respect to Capricorn. So we could see these qualities really show up when it comes to your intellect, as an example, and any studies there. But then whenever we get to the astrological new year, well, the sun will be in Aries. So we welcome in the astrological new year at the beginning of Aries season. And so for you, Scorpio, the sun will be activating the sixth house of health and your daily practices, your daily habits and rituals. So there will be this leadership quality, this daring element to these areas for you. And naturally, we will be focusing quite a lot on this area of your life throughout 2025. So when we think about your horoscope, because the thing is that Saturn and Neptune are on the move, and the nodes have been in your 6th and 12th houses since July 2023. So we're going to see how things unfold. But do keep in mind, with Saturn and Neptune coming into your 6th house, this will be more of a taster, and then they will begin their full transit time periods in 2026. All right, let's now explore January. So what is up ahead at the beginning of the new year for you, Scorpio? Well, one of your rulers, the traditional ruler for you, Mars, is retrograde in the 10th house in Leo. as we come into 2025. So the thing about Mars retrograde is that it's from the 6th of December until the 23rd of February. Mars retrograde specifically in Leo is from the 6th of December until the 6th of January. So coming into 2025, we will notice you having a good look at how you show up within your professional lives. We think about recognition, striving for success. We think about accomplishment, being seen, being seen for your capabilities, being seen for your ability to get the job done, Scorpio. And so with Mars being retrograde, you will be in the process of revising and revisiting these very areas, and you can step up to the challenge. You can maybe take a closer look at your goals and your energy levels and your willpower with respect to your professional lives there. Even think about how you show up online, social media, your reputation. Then, from the 6th of January until the 23rd of February, Mars retrograde will come into your 9th. So actually, we're going to see an interesting transition here where you'll begin to revise and re-examine your deeply held beliefs. This could be your deeply held beliefs, especially with relation to family principles, family morals, or we could look at this as you going over your energy levels in terms of teaching, sharing, broadcasting, publishing. With Cancer there's something about security, especially emotional security. There is a greater focus on feelings and depth and intuition. So indeed, Scorpio, we could see you maybe coming to terms with your self-beliefs or with your code of ethics and your morals, but really considering then, okay, how do these things feel? How do they sit with me? And they could also be more of an energetic thing. So energetically, how do you feel whenever you follow a certain path? I even think about how the ninth house can be about self-exploration. We go on a bit of a quest here. So there could be a lot of learning, expansion, and growth on your behalf, on your part, Scorpio, but Mars retrograde in Cancer is going to welcome some healthy reflection and the ability to go within and to review your goals, your strength, your energy levels, your drive, and naturally to also consider potential challenges along the way and how you can overcome those challenges, how you can learn from those challenges, such as, for example, a legal challenge could come up and you'll be able to address that with great grit and determination and tenacity, right? Cancer is a very tenacious sign. Okay, so the other thing about January is the nodes are on the move. So the North Node and the South Nodes, July of 2023. So we really have seen you, Scorpio, stepping into your power, I would say, because Aries is another Mars-ruled sign, just like you. And there's been so much focus on that of being direct, being courageous, being brave when it comes to your health, when it comes to your work, the services you offer. With that being said, Chiron has also been in the 6th. So yes, you've been making those moves when it comes to work and services, maybe taking on leadership positions and roles there. But Chiron can also suggest maybe some challenges with respect to your health, some health issues or concerns. Burnout could be a big thing here, overdoing it. And so I think this has also been your opportunity to really consider your health, right? And this is why I'm thinking to myself that 2025 Scorpio is a big year for putting your health first. And I know we could also argue that 2024 was also about that, and a part of 2023 was also about that because the North Node has been in the sixth. But I think that what will be really ushered in for you is how to be somewhat more intentional about certain health related boundaries. Okay. And the reason why I'm saying this is because, well, we'll get to Saturn, but Saturn is going to come into the sixth and we'll start this whole new cycle, like 3 years or so, something like that. Right. So, this is why I'm saying your health, I feel, has been sort of tapping on your shoulder, like, look at this, look at this. So, we're going to see more of these themes basically, and how you can build and how you can maybe structure things and take a good hard look, right? Take a good hard look at your health regime, how you take care of yourself. But then I also think a part of it is connected to the South Node influence in Libra, in that, okay, what about rest, balance there? What are you doing behind the scenes? Or whenever you step away from the public eye, how are you looking after yourself? How are you showing up within your relationships? How are you creating some kind of harmony from behind the scenes? And that within itself can, in a way, influence and impact other areas of your life. So indeed, I feel like this has been a bit of the mission, so to speak, that you've been on over the past couple of years. But there's still going to be that focus, that drive, that intention setting as we go through 2025. But still, the nodes are going to change, right? So the North Node is going to come into Pisces and the South Node will come into Virgo. So what is this going to suggest? Well, the nodes will change on the 11th of January. So kickstarting a new 18-month period. So firstly, with the South Node being in the 11th in Virgo, we're going to notice for you, Scorpio, you hopefully easing up on any potential harsh criticisms when it comes to grips. And maybe a part of this is being able to step back and recognize, hey, you know what? That's not my issue. I don't need to fix that person. I don't need to fuss about that situation. Just let that go a little bit, ease up on that a little bit, rather than maybe getting so caught up in other people's problems and issues, things like that. Naturally, yes, you can also look at this as some kind of gift or a talent. It's just with the nodes, we want to remember not to go overboard with it, to become obsessive with it, or to become stagnant. So sure, the South Node in Virgo could also show up as you being somewhat concerned about others, considerate about them, seeing how you can help other people improve, showing up as a friend, being very hands-on as a friend. And we see this for you, Scorpio, with Virgo in the 11th, but it's also questioning, okay, to what extent am I doing that? And I feel like that this is where the North Node in Pisces in the 5th can come into play. And it can kind of say, you know what? Maybe I need to just flow with this, let it go, be a bit more passive, maybe not get sucked into certain situations that are not actually good for my heart. They're not actually good for my sense of self. And maybe even a part of the North Node in Pisces points to this interest in spiritual values and principles. Maybe even if it is that you enjoy painting or something fantasy related, then you could use the North Node to your benefit to maybe focus on those areas and to feel inspired in new ways and healthy ways. I think there's an interesting conversation basically here, Scorpio, when it comes to your ego and your sense of self and your individuality versus the grips and other people's ideologies, other people's views and opinions. So it's, of course, with the nodes, it is essentially about balance. It's a bit of both here, right? But I think the North Node in Pisces can maybe help you flow a bit better, or recognize what you can let go of, or just say, you know what, this is not within my control. It's not my responsibility. But then we could also possibly look at this through, let's think about it through a lens of children, right? So the 5th house can be about children, romance, love, things like that. So we could also see this greater desire to want to connect and to merge, so to speak, within your romantic relationships. Or we could see it as you showing up in compassionate, empathetic ways, in ways where there is some of this surrender, or there is more of this blissful curiosity, maybe some form of escapism within your romantic relationships there. Naturally, with that being said, perhaps this is also where the South Node can come in handy. The South Node in Virgo can also assist by recognizing times whenever you are overly sucked in, or you're too merged maybe with your children, or you're too merged maybe within your romantic relationships there. I think the South Node in Virgo can maybe invite, okay, well, there's friends out there are people, there are groups, clubs out there that can maybe help you find some healthy balance with this. And you can also then show up in more practical ways there. Okay, and then we come to Uranus. So Uranus will turn direct in your 7th house on the 30th of January. And the retrograde is basically from the 1st of September 2024 up until the 30th of January. So basically here, the Uranus retrograde is just an opportunity for you to really reconsider how it is that you have rebelled or revolted, so to speak, when it comes to your relationships. How is it that you've maybe separated yourself, or differentiated yourself, or you've been able to create some kind of independence there. And maybe as well, it's seeing and revising the ways in which your relationships have changed suddenly and unexpectedly over the past number of years. There could be some significant breakthroughs or shakeups, things that maybe you didn't really recognize before, but you can see them more clearly, especially whenever Uranus does turn direct on the 30th of January. So there could be some lightning bolt moments, those aha moments with Uranus. So those aha moments with respect to relationships and partnerships, like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that was going on. Oh, I see it more clearly now. Revelations, right? And then hopefully you can move forward with greater inspiration or recognition of how you can show up in those practical, consistent, stable ways. But again, I think a lot of this stuff has been about catching you by surprise. You've been caught by surprise. And so the directness of Uranus, so with Uranus turning direct, it's just about integrating the things that you looked over these past few months when it comes to those relationship areas. Okay, so February. What's happening in February here? Well, we also have Jupiter turning direct, and Jupiter retrograde has been from the 9th of October 2024 until the 4th of February. So Jupiter will turn direct on the 4th of February. So here we see more themes to do with relationships, but more so on a vulnerable level, more so on a really committed, trustworthy level. So Jupiter retrograde in the 8th has been this opportunity for you to revise how it is that you come together with your partner, for instance, your significant other. So if you share resources, if you share belongings, if there are some kind of shared accounts there, then you have had this opportunity to look over those things and to also maybe explore variety, other options, how you can change things up, maybe specifically. So when we think about how the 8th house is about your partner's money, maybe it's something about their money that has been revised and looked at. Or when we also consider how even Taurus in the 7th, and a part of this goes back to Uranus that I was talking about a moment ago, but the 7th can also be about your partners, it can be about your spouse. So we could also further see those changes, those surprises, the innovative stuff with relation to Uranus there, and how these things can show up within your partner's life. So it seems like there's something that your significant other has been going through. This is what I'm getting here. There's something that they've been going through quite a bit, and they've been, maybe having to come to terms with their materials, their possessions, ownership. And they've also been having to come to terms with their own vulnerabilities, intimacy, how they communicate in intimate ways there. And so this is where we're going to see with Uranus direct and then Jupiter direct on the 4th of February. It could be that your spouse, your significant other, then finally starts to see a change, right? There could be some turning of events. It could be some new conclusions that are reached. There could be some form of expansion and growth. But again, when we consider this with relation to you, Scorpio, we could see these turning of events more so show up when it comes to debts of yours, repayments, certain plans in place that you have. Maybe some of this, again, it goes back to that combining of materials and resources. So it's not just in a singular way you and in a singular way the other. There is that sharing, okay? This is about sharing of resources and materials. But we could also assess this through a lens of business. So maybe this has very much been business focused, business minded. There's been a lot going on when it comes to partnership and certain contracts and agreements being signed there. We could also perhaps view Jupiter direct through a lens of you. So you moving forward after a period of revising that of your unconscious. So we think about the psyche, we think about more of those psychological themes. So your mind perhaps transforming, your unconscious transforming because of your ability to question, to go within, to dig deep, right? There's that digging deep element to the 8th house. And so from that, hopefully you can move forward with this greater understanding or this greater awareness of, okay, well, this is why I do the things I do. And I can see it more clearly. And what I can do is I can work on those things. If your actions or behaviors are things that you would like to change, you would like to improve, you would like to expand upon a little bit. We could see you perhaps moving forward with more of a more understanding. Okay, this is what I'm getting from this. It's more of an understanding of why you do the things you do and why you think the way you do. Maybe a part of this too, Scorpio, has involved you, well, going back into the past. Going back into the past, having to sit with certain emotions and uncomfortable feelings. All right, then we come to the 23rd of February, and your traditional ruler Mars turns direct in Cancer in your 9th. So that will be your opportunity to move forward after that period of self-reflection, okay? So again, we think about those themes related to your self-beliefs, your morals, your code of ethics, especially morals related to family, home. It could even be related to travel. There could be a revision, this revision period with Mars in the 9th, where you could look over old information and knowledge, and you can gain deeper understandings there. You can also look at this as going over legal issues, legal concerns, being tenacious, right? So yes, with Mars retrograde in the 9th, it has been your opportunity to just review your very energy levels when it comes to these areas, but also to reassess your energy levels when it comes to how you share or report things, how you broadcast things, how you publish there. So indeed, I think a big part of your intuition has been driving this stuff and drawing from your feelings there too. But we can even look at this as this stuff being also tied in with the workload, with your health, again, with your everyday tasks and responsibilities, your productivity levels, your stress levels, things like that. I think also your aims and your goals will be very much highlighted during the Mars retrograde. And the reason why I'm saying this, Scorpio, is because Aries does rule your sixth, right? So Mars rules the sixth and the first houses. So yes, after a good honest review when it comes to these areas of your life, and then asking yourself even the bigger picture questions about these areas of your life, then when Mars does turn direct on the 23rd of February, you can hopefully move forward with this greater courage or this greater understanding of your emotional needs, your emotional security. Do remember the post-shadow period. So the post-shadow period is from the 23rd of February until the 2nd of May. So that will be your opportunity to mull things over. There could be some things that you make tweaks to, right? You could tweak things up, or you could tie up a few more loose ends. Okay. So let's now get on to March. So March is a pretty big month astrologically, and I do have just a quick calendar here. So just to show you, it will be eclipse season and also retrograde season, including Venus and Mercury. Venus and Mercury are both pretty personal planets. Mercury is the mind, the intellect, and Venus is the body. So yes, we're going to see significant changes here, rewiring of the brain, of the unconscious, for example, reconsidering our passions and our desires. SEX is also a part of this, with Aries activated especially. Even Neptune is going to enter into Aries. So what does this all have to do with you? Well, let's explore Venus retrograde firstly. Let me just take a drink of water. I do apologize. It's just my throat, but I'm hoping that it will go away. Okay, so Venus retrograde is from the 1st of March until the 12th of April in Aries and Pisces. So we have Venus retrograde in Aries in your sixth from the 1st of March until the 27th of March. So this part of the retrograde, I think it will very much be health focused, especially when we think about this in terms of the body. Okay. Maybe even specifically, some of this is about the head, because Aries rules the head. So maybe it would behoove you to slow down and to really consider what you need. And this is also partly why I was saying that this is a year where you're going to make your health a priority. It's about putting yourself first when it comes to your health, because really, without our health, we don't have anything. Like we need our health in order to make everything else function and operate well. So this indeed could be your opportunity, Scorpio, to look after yourself. Now, on another note, we could see that with Taurus ruling your seventh, right? Maybe this is also about your partner's health, right? There could be something related to your significant other's health and what they need, some sort of support there. So yes, there could be a revision, a re-examination when it comes to the health of your partner. But again, when we bring it back to you, this stuff could show up as you making your health a priority. But we could also look at this as you reviewing your dietary requirements. We think about an exercise regime. We think about just the daily routine that you perform. So we think about your day-to-day schedules and habits. Great time to reconsider what your habits are and any changes you want to make there, especially when we consider how Venus is very much connected to the body and our sort of physical presence, if you will. Maybe even a part of this retrograde in the sixth will speak to your personal finances, your personal earnings, even re-examining co-worker relationships, who you work with, who you want to work with. And potentially as well, we could look at this as you reviewing the very workload and your stress levels, your productivity levels. With Aries, Aries can be very active and dynamic. So with the retrograde motion, it's just a way to rethink your strategies, rethink your process and how you show up and how you relate, even, yes, to other people within your working environment, but how you relate to that everyday environment as well. So, with Venus then coming into the fifth in Pisces from the 27th of March until the 12th of April, well, this part of the retrograde is going to welcome more of this revision, so to speak, when it comes to your creativity, your hobbies, your forms of enjoyment, what you do during your spare time. But whilst the Aries part of the retrograde is more dynamic, adventurous, active, very passionate, very fiery, it could be very heated. And maybe even there's an element of standing up for the underdog there. But with Pisces, it's more serene, it's more soothing, it's more soft, gentle, calming. There's a a kind of submissiveness to Pisces. There's a kindness and this spiritual patience, if you will. So maybe the Venus retrograde part of it in Pisces will ask you to more so come at your creativity, come at your hobbies from this place of inner guidance and being able to really reflect, to contemplate, to feel into things. Maybe we could also see this happen or see this show up within your romantic relationships. And it's quite interesting when I think about this because, well, Neptune has been in your fifth house for many years, and Saturn has been in your fifth house for the past 18 months or so. Uh, well, let's just put it this way. It depends on when you're watching this, but Saturn coming into your fifth from March 2023. Okay. So what has been ushered in for you is that of, okay, within my relationships, especially romantic relationships, when it comes to dating, how is it that I can show up from this empathetic, more tender place? How can I listen? How can I hold space for the other person's emotions? But at the same time, how can I not get lost in that? Where I become sucked in or where I merge too heavily or too much. How can I also differentiate somewhat there? So there's an interesting conversation, I think, about healthy boundaries within your romantic relationships, especially with Saturn coming in. Saturn has been that boundary setter, bringing form and structure. Responsibility has happened, taking accountability, responsibility for your actions. We could also say this about your romantic partners. So it's interesting to see then Venus with the Venus retrograde. It's almost like Venus retrograde's coming in and saying, okay, it's time to do the test. It's time to really see how you've shown up, how you've grown up romantically, how you've grown up even when it comes to your hobbies and that discipline side, right? With Saturn, you being this disciplined, committed individual when it comes to your hobby, when it comes to an art form, your creativity. And plus, we could also look at this through a lens of children. Okay, we go back to children with the fifth house, so maybe the Venus retrograde in Pisces is also speaking to the relationship that you have with your children and the sense of harmony there, or how maybe as well there could be this merging process or this merging quality. Maybe the Venus retrograde could be speaking to some form of surrender or letting go. What I'm getting from this is letting your children learn for themselves, as they go out into the big bad world, so to speak, to still be there, to be a supportive figure, but to also allow your children to grow, if you will. Very interesting conversation here, and I'm sure we could talk so much more about it, but this is just this yearly overview, Scorpio. Now, Mercury will also follow a very similar path, which I find to be very fascinating. So Mercury basically is just coming along, and I think it just adds more of this communication piece. Okay. So, just to go over the dates, Mercury retrograde in Aries and Pisces will be from the 15th of March until the 7th of April. Mercury retrograde in Aries will be from the 15th of March until the 29th of March. So, let's say, for example, with Venus retrograde in the 6th, that there is some kind of co-worker situation that you revise or that you bring up. You want to take a closer look at that relationship. Maybe it's about money, it's about promotion. But you see, Mercury retrograde could very well be then pointing toward information. Okay. It's like, okay, well, there's maybe a different contract coming through, or there's an old contract you're looking over, right? Let's go over the details. Let's use our analytical abilities. Let's try and be logical about this if we can. With Mercury and Aries, sometimes logic can go out the window, especially if it is just passion and you're going purely off instinct. Still, Mercury could speak to revising, reviewing information, some document there. Or we could look at another example. If it is a health related matter that comes up, then Mercury retrograde could then shine light on the communication side of things, right? Such as appointments, booking, seeing the doctor, uh, yeah, getting the correct information to you, and you maybe being somewhat direct and straightforward about those things. Okay. Those are just a couple of examples. Again, I could go on and on with many examples. And then whenever we look to Mercury retrograde coming into Pisces from the 29th of March until the 7th of April, well, let's say, for instance, that you do consider, okay, romantically, how have I been showing up? And as well, creatively, what have I been learning when it comes to my creativity? How have I grown? What responsibilities have I taken on? Have I been disciplined? What have I learned about discipline there? So, Mercury retrograde coming in could be that analysis. It could be your opportunity to maybe reflect deeply, to reconsider, okay, this was my approach before, and this is what I feel drawn to now, right? Pisces is more about feelings and intuition. There could be a lot of symbolism that comes through. There could be synchronicities and certain signs just screaming at you. That could be an interesting thing, I think, about Mercury retrograde in your fifth. It's almost like synchronicities will happen within your romantic relationships, or you will almost be able to read the signs when it comes to an art form. Or it could be that there's some previous fantasy or a previous dream that you can bring into your art or your hobby. You could revisit an older way that you used to do things and then apply it. Or again, with, well, the typical thing with Mercury retrogrades, there could also be delays, right? Delays, there could be some confusion, deception, especially with Mercury retrograde in Pisces, just not seeing things clearly. So do keep that in mind. But the fog does start to clear, and we'll talk about so Mercury and Venus turning direct in a moment. But when we further move on to the eclipse season, there is the opening of eclipse season with the lunar eclipse in Virgo in your 11th. So this will be like the opening of a new cycle, right? A new set of eclipses in the 5th and 11th houses for you, Scorpio. So it's almost like the lunar eclipse in Virgo on the 7th of the 14th of March will welcome some kind of shift, a clearing out. Okay, time to clear the cobwebs, time to reorganize things, declutter when it comes to group participations, clubs you're a part of, things like that. Okay. And then whenever we draw our focus to the 29th of March with the solar eclipse in Aries, that will be more of an ending, right? Because this will be the final eclipse in the Aries Libra axis for another like 8 or 9 years. So the solar eclipse in Aries and the 6th here could be this. Sure, we could see new chapters, notable changes to do with the workload, to do with your health, your stress levels, your productivity levels, things like that. Even thinking about the relationship you have with your pets, with the 6th house ruling pets. And so being a bit of a daredevil or a trailblazer or a pioneer within these areas. But it's also like a bittersweet feeling, I think. There is something about an ending. There's something about the coming to terms with the end of a cycle, the end of a process there too. Naturally, we will explore the eclipses in their own videos closer to the time, but this is just an overview. Alrighty, so here is a really significant part of 2025, and it is Neptune coming into Aries. So Neptune is going to enter your 6th house in Aries on the 30th of March. And so from the 30th of March until the 7th of July, we have something quite interesting here to do with your daily habits and routines. We could see something dissolve. We could see something fade away, right? There can be a fading process, drifting off, maybe this sort of process when it comes to Neptune. But there could also be a new source of inspiration that comes through. Okay, this fascination, this dreamy, euphoric feeling, this freeing feeling of like passion and desire. It could be that there's all of these new hopes and dreams that you have when it comes to your working lives. And also, when it comes to all of the mundane, practical, everyday stuff, right? There could be something idealistic about how you view things. Naturally, I think what's important to say about Neptune is Neptune can certainly be limitless. Neptune can show up as not really being very present or grounded. We we can sometimes drift off or just build castles in the sky. So there could be some of this stuff going on. Now, the important thing to remember about this is Saturn is pretty nearby. Saturn is going to hopefully help keep us grounded, keep us quite disciplined, and help us be responsible still, to remember what our priorities and what our limitations are in healthy ways. But still, I think Neptune in Aries will welcome some new fascination, I think, to do with your working lives. It could be that you literally do go into a whole new role or position. It could be that the work that you do involves maybe something spiritual, or you just aligning yourself with your spiritual values there. It could be spiritual practices that you start, for instance. There could also be more of this focus on the likes of helping others, helping people, especially with addiction, or maybe working within hospitals or prisons. We could also look at this as you creating this sort of fantasy for other people, right? Other people can escape, they can go on retreats through the work that you offer, through the services you provide, right? With Aries, you see, Aries can be dynamic, adventurous, freedom focused, very passionate. There's a lot of energy and drive that Aries has. So, Neptune coming here could be where you maybe want to help other people escape in this way. Maybe this is somehow tied to video games or something entertaining. There's just movies, right? Movies, film, to you maybe even tapping into some other form or character or a persona, right? And you can be quite energetic about that. Yeah, there could be something interesting basically about the work that you do, Scorpio. Do remember though that this is just a bit of a taster, and there will be so much more to come, especially from 2026 onwards for you, Scorpio. But here, another way to maybe look at this could also be about health, right? We come back to this conversation about health and maybe greater surrender there, self compassion. My goodness, being compassionate with yourself. If it is, for instance, that with Chiron in the sixth, North Node in the sixth, there have been many realizations about your health and your body, looking after yourself. Maybe Neptune coming along could act as this surrendering force, this compassionate force, the ability to dissolve somewhat and to, hopefully with the support of Saturn, to see through deception and disillusionment, especially if it is that maybe certain managers or bosses or co-workers are trying to take advantage of you there. So yeah, hopefully we could just see you being more in tune with what you need, right? What you need as an individual, if we think about Aries. Okay, so there's way more, of course, I could say about Neptune, but just to speed things along, April. Okay, so April, we have Mercury turning direct and Venus turning direct. So Mercury turns direct on the 7th of April. Now, what I want you to remember is that there is the post-shadow period from the 7th of April until the 26th of April. So basically here, whatever you revised, whatever you reviewed with relation to your art, your creativity, your romantic relationships, your romantic lives there, your individuality, your self-expression, mull things over, okay? Take your time, mull things over, and see how you can integrate the lessons that came up. And then Venus will also turn direct on the 12th of April. So the post-shadow period of Venus will be from the 12th of April until the 16th of May. So similar there to what I was saying, you can mull things over. So basically a lot of, the main areas that are being activated by the Venus and Mercury retrogrades for you, Scorpio, is that of those artistic qualities and hobbies of yours, your creative pursuits, right? Even time off, I would say, is something that you will revise and reconsider so that maybe you can spend time with your lovers or spend time with your children, just as examples there. And also areas related to your everyday practices and rituals. So the retrogrades have been, I think, a good opportunity for you to see how aligned you are with the things that you want there, how you wish things to be, and coming to terms with any going overboard themes or disillusionment themes. And again, a big part of it is about self-focus, self-identity, especially within your working lives, when it comes to the services you offer. So after all of that period of reflection and review, with, yes, mishaps happening, miscommunication happening, relationship perhaps miscommunication, especially right with Venus retrograde and Mercury retrograde, partnership miscommunication, feeling like you and your partner or you and your business partner are just speaking two different languages, feeling like you and your coworker are speaking two different languages. But after all of that reviewing, you can hopefully move forward with greater clarity and maybe knowing a bit more, okay, this is what I want and this is how I wish things to go moving forward, and this also is what I have control over, and other things not so much. Still, from the 12th of April until the 16th of May, with Venus turning direct, take your time, see what else comes through, see what you have learned. Okay, so May, what is in store May 2025 for you, Scorpio? Well, we have your other ruler, Pluto. Remember that Pluto has been in your fourth house since the 19th of November, 2024. So Pluto is actually going to turn retrograde in your fourth. Okay, let's just put it this way, Scorpio. My goodness, we think about reform and change, evolution. When it comes to your living situation, your home lives, your family lives, your emotional world as well, really changing. A lot of purging, getting rid of the gunk, so to speak, eliminating what just does not serve you, rebelling against certain family members that just do not align with you. Yes, a lot of introspection here, but especially when Pluto turns retrograde. It's about addressing the shadow, addressing your emotional needs, your emotional desires, and how those things are tied to that of your home life, your family life. We could also see this as you taking a closer look at rebellion or being a bit of an outcast, if you will, when it comes to family values and family situations. And I think because Pluto is your ruler, all of this stuff is going to be all that more personal, right? It's so much about your identity, it's so much about your aims, your goals, what you want out of life. It's interesting because, we are going to see you change in powerful and dynamic ways when it comes to, for example, where you want to put down roots, when it comes to the family that you want to raise, for instance, or just when it comes to your very views and attitudes towards family. Maybe you don't want to have a family, for example, but it is about your own sort of unique views and perspectives with Aquarius being activated. So, indeed, with Pluto retrograde, it's just really your opportunity to review things, to see, okay, well, what have I learned so far? What's came up for me, right? What's came up for me when it comes to all this family drama stuff, possibly, and me stepping into my sort of power when it comes to family matters, and how have things maybe changed, collapsed, fallen apart? What about breakthroughs already? Has there been any significant changes up till that point, right? So from the 19th of November until the 4th of May, something like that, okay? And then what you can do is you can look things over. Naturally, yes, there's still that, let's just say, the pre-shadow period. So just to confirm here, the pre-shadow period is from the 10th of January 2025 until the 4th of May. So it's almost like you'll be able to revise certain family matters that happen from the 10th of January 2025 until the 4th of May. So during the retrograde, you can do that. You can maybe just address even your own shadow. Your shadow is very much highlighted there, Scorpio. Okay, and then we also have Saturn coming into the 6th. So, as I was saying previously, Neptune coming into the 6th, yes, there could be this new vision, this new fascination when it comes to a certain service or work situation. Could even be wearing rose-colored glasses, wishful thinking, for instance. But here's the beauty about Saturn. Saturn can be this force. Saturn can be this heaviness, more of a compression, more of a confining influence. There's a density to Saturn. Okay, so we could see this as greater commitment and discipline and responsibility on your behalf here. So it's not just about sitting there having your head in the clouds, dreaming about this, that, and the other. Saturn can actually act as this force of, well, okay, you actually have to do something with that. If you want to make it happen, make it happen. These are the steps you got to take. So, indeed, this is also where we're going to see possibly some new transitions and positions when it comes to work. And a lot of this is about leadership. A lot of this is about knowing what you want. Hey, and a lot of this too, I think, is about respect. Being respected as a team player or being respected as a leader. Yes, Scorpio, very, very fascinating indeed. But moreover, just another point here could be again about health, right? We go back to health. So Neptune, Neptune coming into Aries in the 6th could be this sort of attitude of, oh, we'll just put that off. Oh, well, what's the use of that anyway? It's fine, being maybe idealistic, right? But Saturn goes, no, hold on a second. Actually, I want you to do that. I want you to actually be practical about this situation, to be realistic about this situation. Now, on another note, Neptune can also create more of a softness, this soothing influence, this gentle, tender influence when it comes to the coldness or the harshness of Saturn, right? So if it is, for instance, with Saturn coming into the sixth, you feel this pressure, like this instant pressure to like overperform, overcommit. Oh my gosh, right? I have so much responsibility. I think Neptune can actually come in handy a little bit and kind of go, do you know what? You also deserve to put your feet up. It's important to rest. Take it easy. Do something creative. Align yourself more in a spiritual way here. It doesn't have to all be this serious, okay? Indeed, it's going to be an interesting conversation, I think, between Neptune and Saturn in Aries, which again, they will not start their full transits until 2026, which on that note, just a quick thing to let you know, on the 19th of February 2026, both of these planets will be conjunct, okay? They will kickstart a new 35-year cycle within your sixth house Scorpio. And so we could see this interesting relationship between these planets unfold, right? When we're talking about certain examples. But yeah, more information to come, I am sure, next year. Also, just quickly, I think I forgot to mention this, which is important. Saturn will enter Aries on the 24th of May. If I already mentioned that, I'm just saying it again anyway. Okay, I can't remember if I mentioned it. Yeah, 24th of May is when Saturn will enter Aries. Okay, so let's now think about June. What's in store for you this June? So June 2025, Scorpio. Well, on the 9th of June, Jupiter comes into Cancer in the ninth. So for you, when it comes to your teachings and what you publish, what you share with the world, right? There could be some gifts, talents, blessings, people wanting to give to you, people appreciating you, praising you. Even Jupiter can be a planet of praise. We could also see this as you traveling. You could very well have this travel bug, or you may feel inspired to want to travel to certain destinations with a lot of culture and heritage. Maybe there are certain destinations that you're going to form a really tight attachment to. There could be some sort of emotional attachment to particular areas and places. And you could possibly desire to travel with your family with Jupiter in Cancer. Plus, we could see this as you taking the time to really go over, okay, well, what do I believe in? What are my morals and my principles when it comes to family? And remember that we talked about Mars retrograde. So Mars retrograde in Cancer more at the beginning of the year. So that was your opportunity to think more about your drive and your willpower when it comes to this family moral stuff. But Jupiter could very well invite you to think more about, okay, well, how can I further my studies? How can I further my knowledge? Maybe there's something that I would like to study, some kind of training program. We could even see this as an example of, right, okay, well, this is what I believe in. This is my principle when it comes to family or when it comes to my living situation. Right, great. This is what it is. I am going to now go and study a course, or I'm going to go and become qualified in a certain program. So then I can align myself with those principles and with those morals, right? Jupiter, even if we think about it, Jupiter is so much about our moral compass, our moral compass and our principles, and how we stay true to following that. So in Cancer, I think a lot of this is going to be about caregiving and support. And in the ninth house, we see this as you taking on certain educational programs, or we could see this as you moving to that particular country, literally relocating with Jupiter in the ninth. Or Scorpio, we could also look at this through a lens of addressing particular legal concerns, legal issues about money specifically, because Jupiter does rule your second house. Jupiter also rules the 5th house. Oh, we could see this as you getting married abroad, getting engaged abroad. There's a possibility there. Or we could see this through a lens of working abroad, earning money abroad, thinking about different streams of income, for instance, there. Yeah, especially when we think about the broadcasting piece and the publishing piece with the 9th house. Interesting indeed. So, moving on then to July, just to try and speed it up a little bit here. To speed it up a little bit, we come into July and we have our first, our second big retrograde when we think about these outer planets. So, Neptune turns retrograde in the 6th house for you from the 4th of July. So, Neptune will be retrograde from the 4th of July until the 10th of December. So, this part of it in Aries will be your opportunity to consider, right, okay, well, how have I been inspired in new ways? What about my visions and dreams when it comes to my work and my productivity levels, my health? There, you can then hopefully re examine, go over anything deceptive, anything that you're not clear about. You can look at things like, okay, it's time to break past these illusions. It's time to take off the rose-colored glasses. It's also a time to look more within in terms of, okay, your spirituality. Good time for spiritual exploration, a lot of contemplation as well there, making maybe those check-ins with yourself a regular thing, a daily practice. Spiritual practices being looked at more closely through this lens of passion and desire. Then we also come to Uranus. So Uranus is going to come into the 8th so Uranus moves into Gemini on the, let me see here, on the 7th of July. Yes, the 7th of July is when Uranus enters your 8th house. So keep in mind that Jupiter has been in your 8th house for a good period. Well, up until that point, it will have certainly been for a good year, a good solid year. So Jupiter has ushered in more of this, okay, this expansive, generous quality to that of shared resources and accounts. But also, there has been more of this questioning, the seeking influence, seeking for truth. So, seeking answers, seeking the truth when it comes to intimacy, vulnerability, trust, and commitment. So, a lot of that has been happening, and more so on a psychological level, I'm going to say too. Maybe even thinking about how you can share your own studies and research, your own investigations with others in some way, shape, or form. But Uranus then coming into the 8th from the 7th of July. And of course, this is just going to be a taster, but Uranus could very well shake things up. There could be breakthroughs. There could be something quite innovative then happening when it comes to the likes of intimacy, shared resources, and your unconscious. We could see also particular methods or ways of doing things being shattered. We could see this rebellion. We could see this reforming influence, things just changing. And with Uranus and Gemini, I mean, things changing could be very scattered or unpredictable, but in rather inconsistent ways. Things are very much about variety. It could be exciting, honestly, right? So, for instance, this could be you and your partner coming up with many innovative ideas, innovative ways of accumulating wealth, right? So, there is that sharing piece with the 8th house. And so, you draw up all of these different creative ways of going about doing things, but you also think outside of the box, right? There could just be things that are up in the air, things that excite you. And make you want to spring into action with this intellectual curiosity, right? There can be these big bursts of energy when it comes to Uranus, these sudden flashes of insight where it's electrifying. So we want to think about this electrifying quality, I suppose you could say, when it comes to how you and someone else, how you combine your shares, how you combine your resources and your materials, your possessions there. So yes, this could be you and your significant other, but it could also be maybe within a business setting. But Scorpio, we could also look at this as major breakthroughs when it comes to your very psychology, right? And those breakthroughs are enough to completely change your mind, right? Your mind, your mentality, your mindset just changes like that, right? And perhaps such mindset shifts are somehow tied to family, home, your living situation, because Uranus rules your fourth. More to come, I'm sure, about Uranus, of course, and everything else. This, again, is just a reminder, it's an overview, but also we have Saturn. So Saturn is going to turn retrograde from the 13th of July until the 27th of November. So with this short window of Saturn retrograde in your sixth, in Aries, we think about up until that point, okay, what will have been uh, sort of nudging at you, saying, hey, this is how you're going to mature. This is how you're going to take responsibility when it comes to your daily habits and your daily routines. So, Saturn retrograde is just that ability to refocus, to consider already, right, what lessons have come up. Harsh lessons, perhaps, lessons that are so much about harder truths and seeing the reality of a situation. Okay, the reality of a situation when it comes to your health, the reality of a situation when it comes to a co-worker relationship or a work dynamic, some service you offer. Yes, Saturn retrograde is just your way to slow it down, slow it way down, and to reconsider, okay, where am I at? What about responsibility? What barriers have I been putting in place? How have I been working hard? How committed am I to this next quest of mine? Am I willing to put in the work? Is there anything else I haven't thought about yet? Yes, just take that time period to think things over a bit. All right. Then we have our second Mercury retrograde of 2025, and it's happening in your 10th house. Now, yes, it's happening in Leo from the 18th of July until the 11th of August. Remember, Mars retrograde at the beginning of the year, your opportunity to then revise, to review your very energy levels and your willpower and your drive within your professional lives. So, how you show up as a leader, how you take action, being a pioneer, being confident in your position. But Mercury retrograde is more about the facts and the figures and the data, the research, the information. Maybe it can be your opportunity, Scorpio, to go over an educational situation, maybe something to do with travel, right? Travel opportunities when it comes to your professional lives. It could be you revising a previous conversation that you had with your manager or your boss. Maybe there's just something that you're not quite clear about. So you can use that time to your benefit to get clearer, right? And to also remember that, sure, miscommunication can happen during a Mercury retrograde, especially for you when it comes to those co those boss manager relationships. And we think about members of authority when it comes to the 10th house. It could even be here miscommunication with your father, with a father figure. But still, hopefully, with Mercury being retrograde, you can use that time wisely to go over anything that is unclear to you, to take your time to arrive to certain conclusions in a way where you really think it through. You think it through. And again, this stuff is tied to your very reputation. It's tied to your position within society, the role, right? The role that you play, so to speak, the role that you even perform in some way, shape, or form. Because Leo can be about performance, entertainment, drama. Maybe this is somehow even related to a creative area, a creative field more so, or even working with children, just as a couple of examples now that I bring that up. Interesting. Okay, so then we have August. Basically, August is just Mercury turning direct on the 11th of August. Just use the time wisely then, Scorpio, to mull things over. The post-shadow period will be from, if I just look over my notes, the post-shadow period is from the 11th of August until the 25th of August. Use that time period wisely, mull things over. So, I mean, for instance, if it is that there is some kind of professional promotion that you revisit that is maybe even offered in some way, shape, or form to you, you could just use that time to go over the agreement, the contract, whatever information is there, to ask confirmed questions, to get more feedback. Essentially, you can tie up a few loose ends. All right, so then we come into September, and we have here Saturn retrograde entering your fifth on the 1st of September. So from the 1st of September till the 27th of November, use that time wisely to really think about how this is the last time Saturn is going to be retrograde in my fifth house before it leaves for another 30 years or so. So, how can I maybe revisit the life lessons that I have learned? How can I integrate the life lessons I have learned here when it comes to things like relationship commitment, creativity, discipline? We could also look at this as certain structures or foundations that are put in place when it comes to your children. So take that time to slow it down, to re-examine where you're at and how dedicated you have been. What have you really learned? It's just a good way to do an honest review of your discipline and of the lessons you have learned and how you have grown really when it comes to this fifth house area of your life. So again, we think about the likes of romantic relationships, we think about hobbies, creativity, how you express yourself. We think about being a parent, possibly. Indeed, Scorpio, a lot has been coming up with relation to emotional maturity and spiritual guidance within these areas of your life. Then as we move on, we come to Uranus retrograde beginning. Okay, so Uranus retrograde starts from Gemini on the 1st of September. The 6th of September. My apologies, from the 6th of September coming into 2026. So with this part of it, of course, Uranus will come back into the 7th. We'll touch more on that in a moment, but with Uranus retrograde in the 8th, just it's a way for you to maybe see things through a different lens. You know, it's interesting because Uranus does tend to more so be about uniqueness, and there can be a non-conforming element to Uranus. So especially in Gemini, it could be this moment of, oh my gosh, I'm seeing things in a flash. I'm seeing all of these meanings and these messages here when it comes to the inner work I've been doing, when it comes to the studies and research I've been doing. Oh my gosh, this is inspiring. I'm in awe. Whoa, right? Changing perspectives there. But Uranus retrograde is kind of like reframing how you see things, or it could be more of a topsy-turvy influence, or okay, I've saw it that way. Now let's switch it up. And that within itself could also be enlightening. It can be innovative. There is this awakening influence with Uranus. So Uranus retrogrades could still be what feels like, oh my gosh, I'm being so awakened, I'm being so enlightened to all of these possibilities. And I didn't see it that way before. Wow. We could still see it happen, right? We could still see these things happen, but more from a time of introspection, or just because it feels different. There's just something about a different viewpoint. And maybe a part of it is through conversation, relating to other people. Maybe a part of that change is also somehow related to a very practical physical thing, right? It could be, for instance, some sort of debt or liability changing or switching up. And because of that, then that within itself is a breakthrough. But still, just use the time period to maybe reconsider what what will have already happened up until that point when it comes to intimacy, trust, shared accounts. Yes, you can just use the retrograde to gain a different perspective, to see things in a different light. Get more information from that. Okay, then the second eclipse season. So we have on the 7th of September, the lunar eclipse in your fifth in Pisces. So that will be a good period of surrender. My gosh, surrender, release, let it all go. That thing, when it comes to the pressures of hobbies or love or children, let it all go, Scorpio. I think it could be a real big enlightening moment. It could be a lot to do with spiritual insight, following your bliss, perhaps. When it comes to what you enjoy, we think even about fun and pleasure and your interests and your passions in the fifth there. So, yes, there could be some interesting release and a renewal and rewards, possibly reaping rewards. Could be quite a playful, romantic time, possibly, Scorpio. And then we have the solar eclipse happening in your 11th house on the 21st of September. So this lunar eclipse is on the 7th of September. The solar eclipse is in your 11th in Virgo on the 21st of September. So that will be your opportunity to set new intentions, to enter new significant chapters, to see notable changes when it comes to your group involvements and participations. Maybe a part of it is about being the organizer, the planner, being the one who can actually manage things in a pretty analytical, detailed way. But just remember, with the South Node also being in the 11th, it's trying to also find some kind of balance where you're not just being the fixer, the helper all the time. Just remember that. Now, again, there's going to be much more to come because we always want to explore the astrology within the eclipses separate videos. Okay, so moving on to October, what we have here, Scorpio, is your modern day ruler, Pluto, turning direct on the 13th of October. So basically, after this period of you taking a closer look at family transformations and renewals, exploring your shadow when it comes to these areas, you can hopefully move forward feeling greater empowerment. And maybe there can be what feels like a bit of a rising moment, a phoenix rising moment, or something about this evolutionary process. So after this period of diving to the depths, you come up renewed with maybe a new vision, a new perspective, a new way of doing things and showing up within your family. And this could also be about advocating for yourself, your emotional needs, your living situation. The Neptune retrograde enters Pisces on the 22nd of October. So similar to what I was saying about Saturn, Neptune, all right, this is the final Neptune retrograde in your fifth house, but this period it's bye-bye to Neptune in the fifth for you because of how long it takes Neptune to travel through all 12 signs. So yeah, bye-bye to Neptune in Pisces in the fifth. So indeed, just take the time, Scorpio, to really reflect upon, okay, well, what have I learned about compassion and self-forgiveness and empathy when it comes to my individuality, but also think about these matters within romantic settings, situations. How is it that you escape when it comes to fun and play? There could be something quite inspirational, quite spiritual, quite insightful about that reflection, about that contemplation you perform. Then we come into November, November time, and what we see here is Uranus retrograde coming into Taurus in the 7th. So on the 7th of November, this will happen. So similar to what I've been saying about Saturn and Neptune finishing up in Pisces, Uranus will also be finishing up in Taurus. So Uranus retrograde in the 7th for this other period could welcome some kind of this transition, this renewal, this change of focus when it comes to your relationship priorities. We think about how with Taurus in the 7th here, Scorpio, that you tend to really value relationships where there is commitment, loyalty, honesty. Things are stable, right? Things feel stable, secure, and safe, right? There is a supportive quality to Taurus. So we think about this stuff with relation to partnerships. But you see, Uranus has been this whirlwind of a time. Uranus has been, oh my gosh, just things changing so unexpectedly, out of the ordinary situations happening, the unpredictable happening within your relationships. Some working out in your favor, some not working out in your favor, some being exciting, other things being absolutely just, what the heck was that, So Uranus retrograde in the 7th could just be this opportunity to reflect upon, oh, wow, I can't believe how much things have changed. I can't believe how I've advocated for myself, or how my very individuality has shown up within my relationships, how things have been so unpredictable. So, yes, we could see you just taking that time to go over what has happened and maybe to draw from some valuable lessons. I think, it's with Taurus, a lot of it is to do with values. So maybe you could use the Uranus retrograde for that one final time as a way to reconsider those values and to maybe see them in a different light, in a different way. With Uranus, again, Uranus is about change. Uranus is about the non-conforming ways, thinking outside of the box. There is a uniqueness. So Uranus retrograde could sort of be like a turning point, or it could be a time of seeing things through a different lens. And that could be quite enlightening within itself. So this form of enlightenment or innovation within your relationships, indeed, take the time to go over those areas, to reconsider them, to re-explore them. Then we have Mercury retrograde. So the final Mercury retrograde of 2025, starting in your second house. So it's going to be in your second and your first. The Mercury retrograde will be from the 9th of November until the 29th of November. So from the 9th of November until the 18th of November, Mercury retrograde in second can invite you to just look over your budgets, your spending habits, saving, things like that. Perhaps there are some older ideas or methods that you take a closer look at or you reconsider. And then from the 18th of November until the 29th of November, Mercury retrograde comes into your sign, Scorpio. So the Mercury retrograde in your sign is going to be so much about you and your path, your direction, your aims, your goals. So the Mercury retrograde could be some kind of older idea that you explore, that you revisit, and that is maybe enough to tempt you or to make you want to try something new. Or it could be something to do with a job opportunity, a career opportunity. Could even be something that changes your identity completely. There could be some kind of identity transformation. But again, this stuff could be more so mental, right? It could be more of a mental shift that maybe triggers such an identity transformation. It could be something that someone says, could be a travel opportunity. It could be you revisiting some sort of location. It could be an educational program that you return to, for instance. Now, what I want to say about this is when Mercury turns direct on the 29th of November, up until the 16th of December, so from the 29th of November until the 16th of December, mull things over, Scorpio. mull things over, integrate what you learn from the retrograde. Then we also have Jupiter turning retrograde on the 11th of November so we come into 2026 basically with Jupiter retrograde in your ninth. Basically, the Jupiter retrograde is just a good way for you to see up until that point, right? How much have you grown? Which kinds of bigger picture questions and lessons have come up already? Which kinds of beliefs have you maybe expanded upon? Which sort of travel situations have you went on? Or maybe what we ask here, certain educational programs or training programs that you've perhaps wanted to take on or grow, basically to grow within your knowledge, to grow within your wisdom, so to speak. So Jupiter retrograde can just be that time period of, okay, well, let me just integrate that or sit with that information. How does that feel really? Am I aligning with my moral compass? Does this feel sort of like I'm on the right path here? Is this correct for me? Is this what I want? And maybe a lot of this again comes back to family, home, relocating, things of that nature. Okay, then we also have Saturn direct on the 27th of November. So Saturn direct in your fifth, you can then, after a period of really going over those life lessons, those maturity, responsibility lessons with respect to those fifth house matters of children, love, romance, your interests, your passions, your hobbies, fun, play, right? You can hopefully then start to move forward with this greater sense of integrity, feeling successful, feeling proud of yourself, all the hard work. Oh my gosh, the hard work was worth it. It could be all of these things being integrated. And then we also want to consider the post shadow period. So just take your time to reflect and to mull things over coming into 2026. But I think, honestly, the end of 2025 is going to feel like a big celebration for many people because we are coming to the end of another era, if you will, with Neptune coming out of Pisces. We sort of come to the end of an era with Pluto coming out of Capricorn, more toward the end of 2024. So that's the end of an era. And then we're coming with, following on from this point, Neptune, right? This leads us on to December, right? But we come on to Neptune here, leaving Pisces after the end of an era around the end of 2025. So with Neptune turning direct here, and I do understand that Neptune doesn't properly enter Aries until 2026, but there's just this finishing up process, this clearing space process that seems to be happening collectively. Still, for you, Scorpio, Neptune direct in your fifth house will happen from the 10th of December. So you could then hopefully, after this period of spiritual exploration, coming to terms with that greater surrender and compassion, this dissolving influence with Neptune, you can move forward then with spiritual lessons and hopefully as well seeing through certain delusions. Anything that you were unsure about, unclear about, confused about when it came to sort of relationships or hobbies or children, hopefully you can then move forward with this greater awareness, greater clarity, maybe even after this period of going over your dreams or your synchronicity, symbolism, things like that with Neptune, and how those things are then linked to that of your art. You can again hopefully move forward with this newfound inspiration. You can move forward hopefully being able to integrate the spiritual lessons that you revisited during the Neptune retrograde. Okay, so everyone, this has been, well, Scorpio specifically, this has been your 2025. Thank you so much for listening. Now, this has been an overview. I'm sure there will be much more information to come about the transits for all the signs, things like that. I hope to go into more detail. Hopefully, we'll see. But Scorpio, if you would like to book a reading with me, you can visit my website, hannahselsewhere.com. And if you did benefit from your horoscope today, you can always buy me a coffee. But hey, there is never any pressure. It's just to let you know what there is available. And please do be sure to give the video a like if you find the information to be helpful. It would be much appreciated. And if you have not subscribed already, then be sure to do so. Thank you all so much for being here, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye.